right, hey everyone. I'm super excited about today's episode because we have Zaid Al Kazemi with us. And if you're building anything online, you probably come across his stuff. He's the guy keeping it real on Twitter and helping founders figure their stuff out. He's running a Build in Public 3.0 community as well, which I recently joined, and it's lovely. There are a lot of posts coming through to see. What I love about Zaid and his profile overall is that he's been through it all. He started with this wild game idea about ninja cats, which we're definitely gonna cover. He worked at a branding agency, and now he's out there helping other founders avoid the same mistakes that he made. And he does it in a super honest, sometimes hilarious way that just hits different. So overall, if you take a look at his posts, you're gonna see what I'm talking about. Um, Also, what I like, what I think stands out with Zaid is how he balances being helpful and entertaining, and you'll find yourself laughing at one of his tweets and then realize that's actually something pretty valuable and important to your business. And yeah, Zaid, welcome to the show. I've got so much to cover and talk about with you, and I would just love to start from the beginning. Take us back to your childhood and just growing up, and share some memories and what you went through as a kid.
Oh man, thank you so much. Beautiful introduction. Uh,
Thank you.
Funny is number one for me. You know, I like to laugh. I like people who put in the effort to make me laugh as well. So, but yeah, I started like my childhood was like I spent it drawing. I love drawing.
Mhm.
I wanted to be an animator. And I grew up in Kuwait, and in Kuwait, it's kind of like, oh, you either become like a businessman, a doctor, kind of these like classical jobs.
Yeah.
So when I was like, I want to be an animator, everybody like laughed in my face. So it was all this kind of like search for identity because everything I wanted to do, like I used to also do magic, you know, as a teenager. And then like, what can I do with that? Absolutely not. You know, so I kind of learned all of these things like animation, drawing, magic, coding, in the early stages. And then my whole like young adulthood was this like search for identity.
Mhm.
Uh, and I didn't find it, until I met, uh, you know, I don't want to really go into my personal life a lot, but, you know, getting married and, finding someone really, uh, gave my life more meaning and more purpose because now it's like, okay, I can't really just stay in this, like, I don't know what I want to do. I need to actually employ my skills to make a living for myself and my family and all that. So that's kind of like the small thing. It's a love story mixed with like an identity, confusion story, and yeah, and so I stumbled into like so I had to get a job, and thankfully, I graduated with a business degree, and I wanted to be like a management consultant because I enjoyed strategy, the long-term growth, and all of that. And then I got a job at a branding agency, and thankfully it was a great branding agency, but they didn't know how to do strategy correctly. So I kind of just read all the books about branding strategy, design, and tested everything I learned from the books on our clients. And that's what's great about working at the agency is that they had like a client every 2, 3 weeks. So every 3 weeks I can test new material that I was reading. So that was the beginning of it. And then I moved to America and continued just consulting independent
Mhm.
uh, with the same thing, just reading. Like for 10 years, I used to read a book a week, sometimes 2 books a week, and just testing. And it's just business books, psychology books, design books, copywriting books, like just things to do with business.
Mhm.
Uh, Come this year, I was like, I know so much. I already like wrote a book. I didn't publish it yet. But I was like, I need to see what people actually want to learn. So starting this year, I started my social media, and started sharing all my knowledge,
Mhm.
building relationships and all of that. In the beginning, I offered the service uh, to kind of new founders, early stage founders, and priced it really cheaply. Nobody wanted it really. So I was like, I don't need to offer it to this market. I already have my clients. They're retainers and they pay enough. for me to, live comfortably. So I was like, let me just, kind of give it all away for free and help people, as much as I can. Uh, and that's kind of the story, basically.
Nice.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this question later on, but you covered it, and I wanted to go into your habit of reading books.
Mhm.
And you said that you read a lot. Can you
Yes.
single out one book that really changed your life that you think is like made a huge impact on how you think and how you behave and
So
stuff like that?
there's one. But
I know you
first,
you
I'll
can
tell you
pick
like
this.
maybe like two, three books that
Okay.
kind of shaped the journey, right? So the first book was a book it's called A Book of Lenses, and it's a game design book.
Hmm.
And and it gives you so many these like tips and tricks and thinking strategies about gaming, and it's a book not just about video games, it's just games in general. And what I loved about that book is that it showed me that books can be highly valuable and entertaining to whatever you want,
Yeah.
because that's kind of, if you start with a boring book, if that's your introduction to reading, you're going to be like, hey, books, But if you start with a book that like unlocks all this like new world for you, you're now like, you can see the possibility of books. So,
Mhm.
so I'll always remember that book, and the author is a person called Jesse Shell, which is he's also a game designer. So, so that opened up the thing. Um, and then the Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way.
Oh yeah.
That book also unlocked that, kind of mind shift where it's like, oh, you think it's an obstacle, you got to run through it, and that change is very powerful. Um, the Tao Te Ching, you know, by it's an old like, I think it was written in 2000 BC or 1000 BC or something like that in China, and it's this book about it's about the way, and like the way of life, and the way of life is uh is indescribable, and that is the nature of the way, is that it's indescribable, and the more you try to describe it, the more you're like losing the
Yeah.
essence of life, so it's a book with a lot of great um, ideas on how to accept reality and move with the flow of life, without trying to define it or reach it or whatever. And then I guess the last book that also made a big is The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
So, yeah.
That is also a fantastic book, with so many great lessons about, because most people think war is violent and, you know, uh, brute force and all of that. And The Art of War is basically teaching you how to not resort to that, how to
Mm.
be so prepared and so strategic that you're not engaging in violent warfare.
And it's very short. You can read it every month, let's say, to remind yourself.
Yeah. And the
Uh,
language is so simple too,
yeah.
so it's such a great book too.
Yeah. And Ryan Holiday, as you mentioned, is a great author, man. It's just has a certain way of hitting the nail on its head.
Yeah, he's great. I like Ryan Holiday.
Yeah. Do you prefer like older books or more modern, or you don't care?
And I don't really care, but lately I've been, so in the beginning when you read books, you kind of fall for all these like hucksters,
Mm.
promising big promises,
Yeah.
and you're like, wow, $100 million offers, well, amazing, and it's like, but who is this guy? He made some gems, like, is that who I want to, model my life behind? So lately I've been more interested in biographies.
Yeah.
In the beginning, you kind of go for this kind of like instructional stuff, but then you realize, oh wow, well, wait a minute, like if you're interested in ice cream, guess what? The Ben and Jerry's people, look, wrote their story step by step with all the strategies and all the struggles and all the, and you can take a lot more from that than someone who's like, hey, how to build an ice cream company,
Hmm.
by some ice cream consultant, like, so it's good to read the basics, like like what's his name? Is it Jim Collins, the Good to Great guy, the Built to Last guy? Anyways, Good to Great is a famous book, right? And it deserves its place. It's very good. Or like Michael Porter with Porter's Five Forces. These are very important principles to learn. And when you know all these principles, like business principles, strategic principles, and you read biographies, you can see much more because you're like, oh wow, they're utilizing this, and this is how being competitive, and this is how so you get the vocabulary. So it's good to read the principles book, but don't get too uh, fooled by big promises. Try to understand that it's a skill. There's principles. There's a variety of skills, and then when you read biographies of pioneers in whatever industry you like, you get to appreciate these principles and how they're applied.
Yeah. I think we're essentially taught to, I don't know how it was for you, but for us in Bosnia, in school, we were taught to read books in full, and you would have obviously, um, we read some amazing books. When we were in high school, we had a teacher who was, uh, she was old,
Hmm.
coming to her retirement age, and she made us read all of these classics
Yeah.
from Odyssey all the way further to more modern books. But the way we were reading books was not that. I don't know. It wasn't the right way in my opinion. It doesn't apply to these modern books. That, for example, 100 Million Offers.
Yeah.
It's and books like that, they're filled with fluff. It feels like just to fill the page quota.
Hmm.
And I always felt bad skimming through books. But then later on, I figured, if, and I just reposted a video about Naval and how he reads books. Um, he said if we're used to all of these devices and everything, and our attention span is so low, why are we also thinking that we need to, that we're able to sit down and focus on one book solely? He reads like 10 books at the same time, like just reads one and then goes to the next one when the one doesn't give him the right feeling. He only maybe likes one chapter and relates to one chapter and gets value from one only. So he moves to the next one. And I've been exploring that, and it's quite fun. I'm reading a book about breathing right now, and then I move on to Chinese herbal medicine. So I'm reading those two in parallel. Um,
I
and
saw that post, and sorry to cut you off, but like I'm not in full agreement because he starts off saying he was raised in a library, right?
yeah,
So he has the basics. He's read through enough books
mhm,
to kind of, at this point in his advanced level, say, I can now read through books and take the value out of the books and skim through and be like, well, this is the right thing. But until you have that training, I think it's bad advice. I think once you commit to reading, because you don't want to, like, for example, I also have multiple books open at the same time.
mhm.
I do like to read to completion. That's because I have maybe OCD or something, But he he says that he was raised in libraries and that he did read books, but his advice is misleading to beginners.
Yeah, true.
As a beginner, you gotta find a book you like, and force yourself to read through it.
But that's what I'm
Because
saying. It's
yeah,
sorry to cut you off,
no,
but it's
I cut you off first.
it's no, we can go back and forth a little bit. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's the issue is finding the exact book that you want to read, and I have a problem with these, as you mentioned, these the over promising is like I find a book, I start reading it, I see okay, this is probably going to deliver some value, and then I see it's all fluff and basically 90% of the knowledge that I already have, maybe even more. And in majority of cases, I just skip through those sections and give it another chance until I see, okay, it's not worth it. And then I have to move on. It's something that I've found that works for me. Maybe I'm missing on some repeated knowledge because I don't know this exact saying, but like the repetition is the mother of all knowledge or something like that. Maybe I should be repeating those topics over and over again, but it kind of takes away from the time that I would learn something new from the book. So I don't know. I'm just trying to find a new balance, and I'm trying to be playful about it. Trying to find. I see that my attention span is very low from using the phone and social media and everything, and I can't just sit down and read as linearly as I would when I was a kid. I remember I read Cervantes or Candide, the Voltaire's book. I read it in full, I think, when in high school, and it draws you in. It's like you're there and draws you in. You just read linearly. But nowadays, especially when I'm reading self-help books, it's hard. It's much harder.
Yeah, I think it's a quality.
Yeah.
You're right. The books you like 100 million dollars offer or whatever. Like some of these books just are not their quality ones. And my recommendation for that is instead of searching for results, because that's what the thing is, like, how to get that result, right? And it's instead of looking at that, it's looking at technical skills and how to I build a technical skill that I'm missing, and finding maybe a textbook, not, you know, a self-help book or something.
Yeah.
Finding something technical and diving into that is gonna be more rewarding in terms of time spent reading versus the value you get from it. So it's a quality thing. And biography is also another thing. Like, whatever industry you like, look for the figures that made up, have great stories in that industry, and then read their biographies. That's another way to, kind of get more engaged and more value out of it.
Yeah,
I like the playfulness though. I'm all for playfulness. And in the end, there's no rules, right?
yeah.
Life is life, and you make of it whatever you want. And
Mm.
and as long as, you're experimenting, you're kind of, uh, the whole point of reading is to kind of expand your mind. And if you're doing that, if you're achieving that goal, then, whatever works for you.
Yeah. And then yeah, it's especially advice with when reading books like with Naval as well. It's not gonna apply to everyone. And as you said, it applies to him and it might apply to a group of people, but you should take it with a grain of salt, right?
100%. Yeah, there's no guru. Like, everybody has advice. Listen to as many different, you know,
Mm.
perspectives as you can, and then make your own decision. Like, be confident with your own decision. Is it the takeaway that if anybody's asking me, is like, stop believing anybody's has the magic, sauce. You have the magic sauce in your identity. You are the creator of your own life. Don't give away that privilege and power to other people.
That's a good one. I should cut this out and save it as a short. Um, I wanted to go back to games because you mentioned in the first book,
Yeah.
you started off as a game dev or developing your own game. Not a game dev. I actually read on your website that you had a contractor
Mhm.
company. Um, but meanwhile, like, have you played games your whole life?
Yeah.
And what's your favorite game? That's my biggest.
Tekken.
Tekken.
Yeah,
Man,
Tekken.
I remember early days, PlayStation 1, Tekken 2. We bought the
Tekken.
PlayStation from like some family friends and playing Tekken 2. All the kids from the neighborhood were in my house playing Tekken. It's such good memories. That game
Yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah, I love Tekken. Roller Coaster Tycoon is also another one I really like. Command and Conquer Generals.
Oh,
That was a fun game. Those three stand out like the most. But I played a lot. Like, Red Dead Redemption, fantastic game too. Uh, but I stopped playing video games. Like, I play chess only now.
oh, okay. I still play from time to time, but I completely feel bad. I think most of the time I feel bad when I play. Did my camera just stop?
A little bit, yeah. But
I think it's fine.
I'm just so obsessive. Like, my personality. If, like, I like something, I'm I'm going
I'm the,
all in.
I'm the,
Like,
I'm the same,
yeah,
100%. But I still can't knock out the habit or whatever
mhm,
is saying, because I feel like it gets me in this zone where it does help cognitively and creatively. It does help. I'm just way too competitive that when I play online games, I get mad and it
mhm.
just ruins my mood sometimes when I lose. So that's the only struggle.
What games do you play?
Right now, I only
Mhm.
play World of Warcraft still, but
Uh,
I don't play. I play PvP only. That's why I say I get mad.
yeah, yeah,
So I don't play that often though. I play mostly on the weekends. If I start playing on the work days, nothing's gonna get done. So,
yeah.
but it's you learn. I don't know if you played World of Warcraft.
I have, yeah, yeah. I used to also, like, just like the business part of it. Like, I used to, like, buy commodities or whatever, like, sell them, do, like, price arbitrage and stuff like that.
Gold and
Yeah. And then
blog.
I used to, like, pay whatever the levelers. Like, there's people, you give them your account and they level it up for you.
I actually did that recently because I was
Yeah.
too lazy. This new
Uh,
expansion came out. You basically stand on a rock. They're clearing out all of the mobs around you, and you just get
yeah,
leveled by standing on a rock somewhere.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like the World of Warcraft teaches you a lot, and games like that. Well, especially World of Warcraft, if you're leading raids or something like that, it's basically organizing a team of people, and people that are acting like kids,
Yeah.
and it's very hard to control them and tell them what to do and stuff. And
Mhm.
I've actually seen a LinkedIn post by a guy that was a high-level raid leader,
Yeah.
and now leads a website company. He builds websites. He said that if he didn't play World of Warcraft, he would never lead a company the way he does, because just like the leadership and the way to organize people is still there, which is it's a very nice line to draw between those two.
Yeah, it's you know, things transform, and I'm a big believer in that. Like you can learn something, like especially when you go deep and become really skilled at something. When you pick up something new, you kind of understand that it has so many depths and there's so much you can go with it, the nuances and all that. So I believe it for sure.
Hmm. And my brother is like a senior developer, and he was always playing games with me, or he was the one getting me into certain games because he's my older brother. And we played Call of Duty, and he played like on a really really nice level. And I honestly think that from Call of Duty and games like that, he learned resilience that he needs today as a dev. And he learned that he needs to sit down and make something happen for 12 to 16 hours a day just by
Yeah,
coding. So it's
100%.
I think it's nice qualities that you can get outside of games like that.
For sure.
While they have benefits, they are dangerous as well for kids and when not controlled. But it's like in everything, finding this real balance. It's
Yeah, knowing when to say enough, let's move on is enough for sure.
definitely you have to strike this balance, the golden ratio or whatever. It's the right thing to say. So now when we're at the game section, tell
Yeah.
me about this Ninja Cats thing. It's
Oh, Ninja
very
Hustle, it was great. So yeah, I've always been like before, like in college, I was like the idea guy. Everything. Oh, I had this idea, $1 billion company. What like designing things in my head, drawing them out, and writing documents, describing them, and all of that. And it was about that time where like the runner games, where like you'd have like a character running on a screen, and there's like obstacles, and like you just jump, and there's stuff.
it's
And
like
I had this
Jetpack
like
Joyride or something.
what?
Jetpack Joyride or something.
Jetpack Joyride, exactly. When that was coming up and all that. And I was like, I got this idea. It's gonna be great, And I had like unique controls in my mind. I'm like, no one's done this with the iPhone, and you can split the screen and all of that. So I was like, this idea is definitely gonna be successful. But I didn't know how to code. Didn't know how to draw on the like animate on the thing. I didn't know how to do most everything technical, So I was like, no problem. There's the CEO, and then there's all the other guys. I'll be the CEO. Right? And so I come up with it. I write the stories. I hire, a writer to make the stories better. And then I try to find a game development studio. And like when you're first starting, you're trying to get a bargain, and you don't realize you get what you pay for. And the really expensive agencies are really expensive for a reason, and the really cheap ones are cheap for a reason, and all of that. So I get it. And, they send me concept art. I'm like, wow, concept art looks great and all of that. And then, boom, the actual, whatever, the prototype thing on the iPhone. And they send me that, and I play it, and it's like complete crud. You know, oh my God, fix this. Because they wanted more money, because it's like, this is the project, but you give them money on milestones. So I'm like, do I want to keep spending money on this? And I'm
Mm.
like, yeah, gonna cut my losses. It was like I already spent like $15,000. It was a lot of money. And I was like, how I'll spend more money, you know? So I cut my losses, and I'm like, the journey begins. I need to learn how to do all of this stuff,
Yeah.
And that was like 10 years ago. So 10 years now, I know how to do all this stuff. So like I'm now starting to build, I have like an app I've been building since February this year, and probably going to launch at the end of this year. And then I'm thinking after this app, I'm also might try the Ninja Hustle game, by myself again, kind of redemption, you know.
Are you completely coding yourself or using AI?
No, of course I use AI, but if you don't know code, like if you don't know like the principles of JavaScript or Svelte or what I use Svelte,
Mhm.
is like Svelte Kit. And if you don't know what you're doing in Svelte Kit, the AI
It's not gonna work.
produces complete garbage, you know, like so I definitely use AI to speed up the processes, you know, like be like, hey, implement this and it does like a draft and then I have to go in through the draft and it's kind of like hiring an intern, to come up with ideas for you. but, but then you have to take it and make it into like part of the project because the project is a big project, it's not like just one component or whatever. It's like, there's 100 functions, like how's the AI, the context window is not that big enough yet, so I definitely use AI, but it's, uh, it's not coding for me by it's,
Yeah, I feel like it's well, everyone's saying like it's gonna replace devs or something like that. It's the biggest challenge or the biggest threat is replacing junior devs. It's definitely not gonna replace like senior devs,
100%.
from what I see. And it's like I talked to my brother and I was asking like, hey, we have a deadline to release and stuff like that just before a few months. I'm like, cursor's popping off. Are you using it? And he's like, hell no. It's like slow. I tried it. It slowed me down so much. And he's like, I'm just coding the good old way. I'm coding my whole life basically. Sometimes he uses AI to speed up some things, but in general cases it slows him down. I'm like, okay, that really makes sense.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
not senior dev by any means. Like I started learning code like uh, like I used to know JavaScript and whatever, but like to actually put it all together, I started that 4 years ago.
mhm.
So I'm junior myself, but uh, but I did learn the right way. Like I didn't just learn Next and whatever. No, I learned
Vanilla.
HTML, CSS, JavaScript, the principles, the code behind it, and all of that. Like to truly understand how it works. And what Cursor is helping me do is, it's like somebody I can bounce ideas off of.
Mhm.
So I would have like a function or whatever, and then I now need to implement like a new idea on top of it. So I'm like, hey, can you convert this? It's like basically um, giving instructions to some. If your instructions are bad because you don't know, like imagine you go tell someone, hey, build me a house, right? And that's it. That's the only instruction you give it, And they're gonna build a shit house, unless they're like an amazing builder. But if you're like, hey, I need the corners perfectly square, I need you to use this material, the molding has to be whatever, and you know how a house is built, you can give much better instructions. So it's the
Yeah.
same thing with Cursor. If you know nothing about code and how it's built and how SvelteKit works or how Next works or how any of the libraries you're using works, you can't give it specific instructions. So I like that I don't need to write a lot of the technical stuff. I know how to write it, but it's much easier for me to give Cursor specific instructions, have it create the 80 lines of code, and then I edit the 80 lines into 60 lines to fit my needs, and then plug it in where I need it to be,
Mm.
than me write all the stuff. So it's definitely uh, what it's doing. It's reducing sprint cycles. So I don't think it's going to replace anybody, but I think the velocity is going to be much higher. You can push features much faster. You can create features much faster, and the sprint cycles are definitely going. I think some people are now doing even daily sprints,
Mm.
or in a day they push a feature, not a week, because it speeds. It does speed, and whatever level you are, if you're a senior dev, you're gonna know how to specifically describe your stuff, and I think now, like Cursor, that is not the best implementation because a lot of uh, packages have documentation, and they're relying on the embedding, or whatever the training model to get that documentation out. But if you're using SvelteKit and I give a fresh context or a fresh embedding, like the most important, I don't know what's it called in machine learning language, but if I can prioritize SvelteKit documentation rather than have it pull it from the training model data, it's gonna give a much better output for Svelte than So and cursor, there's no way of doing that right now for some stupid reason. I don't know what.
You can link a document or like documentation link, but it doesn't prioritize it, right?
It's it. Maybe you can. Maybe there is a way, but it's not easy enough for me to bother learn. You know what I mean? Like it's
Mm.
all in the UI. I think that the people who figure that UI wise are gonna win with the
I
paper.
think I think it's as easy as doing at sign
I've
and
done it. It's not as good as you think it is. Like it just doesn't bring it into context the
yeah,
way that I
I've
would
actually
want.
seen it. I've actually seen it not work because I use the ShadCN UI, and whenever I want to install it with Composer, Composer gives out the npm install ShadCN, and it uses the old way of installing, and they change the documentation. I link the documentation and say, hey, it's not using the ShadCN dash
Oh, I'm
UI,
sorry.
it's using
Oh,
the slash,
my
and
bad.
my bad, and it still uses the old way. And I'm like, okay, I have to redo everything manually now. But I
Mhm.
mean, it's not a problem, but still, if you link the documentation, it should read and follow the exact example.
But that's an easy win. I see that like whoever can figure that out, I'm switching for sure. That
There's 10 different alternatives popping up, I think, pretty soon.
I'm rooting for them. Hopefully, one
I
makes
saw
me a
one,
better
I
code.
saw one this morning. I forgot their name, but I saw that they're at YC.
Yeah,
Uh,
I saw it too, but it's you know
but it's not on VS Code, it's on something else, right?
something like that. But really, for me, I'm a big baby. I like easy software,
Yeah.
and fun to use software and cool software. Like I'm not gonna try something new that is kind of half baked and whatever just because it has the name Y Combinator. I don't care. Like
Yeah.
it needs to look cool. The landing page needs to be convincing. It has to look cool too. Like everything has to like sync together for me to switch.
Yeah.
Cursor was that. It was like the only available option with all the people were like, oh, Replit, oh, whatever. But, I know how to use VS Code. I'm
Yeah.
not going to learn something new, to use your thing, so.
And doesn't seem like anyone else. I know it's like a fork, it's a wrapper, what they say for VS Code with Claude, but it just makes sense. The UI as well and everything. They went with something that people are used to,
Yeah.
rather than doing something completely new. There's this bolt thing that does everything in the browser, but it's still not there, and it
And
does.
the business model is good. Like I can bring my own keys. Like I'm
Yeah,
not paying Cursor or anything. I'm just putting with my API keys.
exactly.
And, I get billed by Anthropic and I get billed by opening it, depending on the model I'm using.
I think they're gonna get acquired pretty soon. I'm just waiting for who.
They should be acquired because, like I said, their business model is not a profitable one. Like some
Would
people
you?
like the do it for you. I think the people who are doing no code like the do it for you thing,
Hmm.
but I don't like. Sometimes use Command K, which changes it in the code, but
Hmm.
I mostly upload everything in chat and like have a conversation in chat, have it figure it out in chat because it can read all my stuff, and then I copy and paste it in the place I like and change it the way I like, so it doesn't interfere so much with the code. I'm like, what did it change? And I think this like lack of context switching, because people are like, oh, well, you can copy and paste it. Yeah, but I gotta go to a different window and copy and paste it and all of that. This one,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm even more lazy. I'm using Composer and everything inside of
yeah.
Composer. It's just like, but I'm not even junior. I'm just like building some free tools to support the main tool.
Mhm.
I don't use it in a very advanced way. So I read some of your Twitter posts, and you mentioned this also earlier. I see that you have a great sense of humor, and you say that humor is very important to you.
Thanks.
Um, how, like, you're advising a lot of founders, how important do you think is like maintaining lightness and like while you're building a serious business, like trying not to keep it that serious and trying to have a sense of humor and approaching it in a way where, okay, life and business is not that serious. You can actually market it in a funny way, just as you said, Max Blade and people like that,
Yeah.
you know It's
Yeah,
not.
I
It's
think
not.
it's about human connection, and then like all of these things are kind of abstractions, right?
Mm.
But uh, you want to buy from somebody you like, if it's competitive, like if everything is equal, you'd rather get it from the nice guy than the asshole, right? you know. So, in terms of everything I do comes from business, and is an abstraction. If you think about it, like it's just we created this abstraction called money to exchange and all of that. But in the end, it's all relationships, and uh, if you've seen, you know, I'm I build relationships with people. I'm not trying to push my advice or anything. Like I don't like debate. I don't argue online.
Mm.
Anybody who wants to argue with me is like, oh, hard disagree, bro. Like, I don't care, bro. you know, like it's I'm not trying to have a contest of intellect online. I'm not trying to tell people, hey, I'm smarter than you or whatever. Like I come at it from we all need reminders, you know, but you know what's best for you, and I've lived experience that I can share, encapsulated in whatever advice I'm sharing, you know. But in the end, it's you are the person who is responsible for your life, and I respect that in you, and I know uh, that this business thing can be very lonely, can be very uh, scary, So when I come, prioritize lightheartedness. You can like when I was selling something, I'm never pushing it. You can buy from me if you want. I'll be happy to serve you. I'm proud of everything I do in terms of service.
Mhm.
But in the end, it's about camaraderie. It's about community. It's about seeing greatness. This is my favorite thing. Like when I see Michael Jordan, like Space Jam is one of my favorite movies. And like I'm genuinely happy that this guy spent so much time to be great,
Mhm.
and see the greatness. And if I can help you do that and see you become great, I don't care if you're 100 times bigger than me, and I don't want any of the credit as well. Like I said, it's a reminder. This. Like everything I tell people, people kind of know, and it's just a matter of energy, being there, spreading good energy, reminding people, if they're doing something stupid, no one's gonna tell them. A lot of people are gonna watch people burn. I think no, I come out and be like, no, bro, you're being stupid, or no, careful. Maybe I hit you in the DM even. It's not even public. Like, watch out for this, or like this guy's trying to bait you. This is like stuff like that, and it's yeah, I come at it from human perspective. Like you like people that make you laugh.
Yeah.
In the end, it's about it is about making friends, and I don't like to be friends with sad people, negative people, and people who want to show you how you're wrong every time you say something. Like that's not how you build friends. So approaching social media from friendship perspective, like hey, I'm here to make friends and spread good vibes. I think that's the better strategy.
100%, man. I love that. I love that so much. Such a good, such a good approach. And on Twitter, like we're seeing so many of these public, like people are calling people out on with public posts, and like Mark Lewis popping off now. Everyone's fucking sharing the security vulnerabilities and calling him out in public. I'm sure some of the close people texted him and told him, do this, do that, or whatever. Or some people would approach like yours, but a lot of cloud chasing with posts like that, and
I don't mind it. Like I don't care. Like it's funny for me. Coming
yeah,
back to the humor thing,
yeah,
like a lot of people do it, and it's fun.
yeah,
Like if other people want to come and do some virtue signaling bullshit, oh, you shouldn't do that. Or oh, this is how you're gonna get attention. Oh no, you should focus on whatever. No, you should do whatever you want to do, and they can do whatever they want to do. Like it's if you're not down with it, just focus on something else. The internet is so big. You don't have to focus on this and have a take on it.
yeah.
If it's not part of your vibe, just don't associate with it. But don't go knocking people down just because. Like I have a lot of friends who like to play the villain, and I think it's great. I think it's cool, play the villain. Like Mark Liu wants to create some crappy products with security vulnerabilities. He should stand behind it. If someone comes out and says, "Hey, your product is crap," and it has security, either Mark Liu says just ignores it, like a true pro, but he's
Mhm.
not ignoring it. He's being a baby, like, playing the victim and all of that. So it's like, nah, you want to do something, you stand behind it. You want to like gaslight somebody, you stand behind it. Like, I'm not, you know, Mr. Nice Guy. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you need a friend, I'll be your friend. But if you want to be, an idiot, I'm not trying to give you nice vibes. If you don't appreciate what I'm doing, like, I'm good. Like, so it's. I'm also not with being afraid of big people because like whatever. Like I said, the villains are nice guys too sometimes.
Mhm.
So like, yeah, just don't. Virtue signaling is the thing that I don't like. Like, because we're all trying our best. We all have our, you coming saying you're better than me or whatever. Like, I don't need to hear it. Like, I don't care what you think.
I mean, a lot of subjective opinions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It's all opinion. All of the discourse online is opinion. 100%.
yeah. I've This reminded me of I was talking about this with George, the previous guest on the previous episode.
Judge is great. I had him on my podcast too.
George is a lovely guy, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched the episodes, it was so good. And we talked about like how I grew up in Bosnia and like lived here most of my life until when I left for my master's degree. And it completely changed me. It was like 180 turn, not just
Mm-hmm.
like living life, but mentality and learning more about different people because I was living in the dorms with everyone, with people from Syria to United States to Rwanda, like everyone.
Nice.
And
Where did you go to college?
in Prague, in University of Economics,
Mm-hmm.
I was doing my master's degree in information systems. Uh,
Badass.
but I was living in the dorms in the beginning. It was like very cheap and everyone's there, and that was the place to be, right? But the other than living alone or like living with a roommate in a very small room and like learning to do everything by yourself, the biggest lesson was meeting these different cultures. Like I was hanging out with people from Iran, from China, from my
Yeah.
roommate was Austrian, other friend was Portuguese, so like all mix of cultures. And one big lesson in just like interacting with different cultures and also different personalities was in Bosnia, everyone has an opinion and everyone shares their opinion actively. Everyone's entitled to share their opinion. And then when I met these cultures and different people, different personalities, I was like, fuck, the way to go is not like to have an opinion, but don't always share it because you're not entitled to sharing it. And you also maybe are not going to contribute to the whole conversation or the whole point if you share your opinion. So sometimes it's just very, very um, important to shut up and keep your opinion for some other occasion or never to share it. And it was something very valuable that I learned that really affected the future.
100%. Yeah, you don't want to offend people. Like you said, you're in a multicultural situation. You don't know if your opinion is incomplete, whatever. But I'm I'm sad when I see uh, big people bully small people,
Yeah.
and shut them up because they just have a louder voice, and that's kind of where it's tough to say something, and take a stand against that because you're a small guy or something like that. But so you're right, 100%. Coming back to my point, like when you're making friends and everybody's intention is friendship, you do want to protect people's feelings and not share an opinion that's gonna like pierce someone's soul. But in different, you know, battlefields, like there's those people that don't want to shut you up,
Mhm.
because you're saying something against their whatever, like Mark Liu, for example, like he might use his clout to want to shut people up about the security thing, but there is a security problem, and for someone to share it, it takes a lot of courage from them, you know,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff I do support. But I totally agree with you that when you all trying to make friends, definitely you don't want to disagree with people, you know, uh, because who cares, that if someone says something that you disagree with, is it gonna affect their life negatively if they believe this? They're gonna, become a drug addict because they believe that? No, it's just a stupid thing they believe in. It's fine.
And it's not even just disagreeing, it's just like whatever the opinion is, in whichever way it goes, sometimes it's not, you don't have to share it. Because
Yeah,
where I'm drawing the line is that Balkan people are very temperamental, and
yeah. They're
it's
like elves.
yes, it's very similar, and it's
Mm.
like this if you have an opinion, like it's very hard to go against your nature. So when you're this way, and when you're in this environment, and when you go out somewhere and see that it should be different, you're like, okay, I have to change my ways.
Yeah, I might be learning this lesson with you.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
not
I'm not saying
generalizing.
I know the answers. It's just, I'm also trying to learn the best ways, and it's hard to navigate sometimes, especially when you come from a background like that, where it's like, you know, just full of anger, and that's how people kind of negotiate, is with, kind of emotions and whatever. But definitely the calmer you are in your dealings, whatever the circumstances are, the better decisions you're gonna make in general.
Okay. I had a question written down and it's a little bit cringe because it's a standard question, but
Okay.
I have to ask, if you could have dinner with any three people, living or
Okay.
dead,
Okay.
who would they be and what you would ask them? Take your time to think, no pressure.
Yeah, I like these kinds of questions. Um,
Me too, that's why I asked them.
okay. Three people.
Three people. Living or dead, doesn't matter.
Okay. First, John D. Rockefeller.
Hmm.
100% John D. Rockefeller. I'll
You
say
can go.
who first and then what I'll ask them.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. John D. Rockefeller, Walt Disney.
John D. Rockefeller is still alive, or
No, he's dead. He's the guy who started Standard Oil,
yeah.
and because of him, they created antitrust laws. He was like the richest man in history, basically.
Isn't that is there a guy that's like 100 something that's still alive? Is that his?
I think it's maybe his son or something, or his grandson,
Okay.
something like that. Uh, but yeah, John D, Walt Disney, old guy. It's so cliche, right? Like, it's all business people for me. It's like, John D, Walt Disney, and maybe Steve Jobs.
Doesn't matter. It's about what you would love to ask them as well.
Yeah, yeah. And with John D, what I'd want to know from John D Rockefeller is probably his, like, acquisition strategy, like, kind of what how would he think about it, and how he would execute it. Like, because he started, the story of John D Rockefeller. Definitely recommend you read the book Titan,
Not really. Yeah.
and it's a fantastic. He basically started in oil when they discovered oil,
Mhm.
and then he just expanded so aggressively that he owned, like, almost 100% of the oil industry in America, and then they created antitrust laws
Mm.
stop his power, because he controlled everything, controlled railroad pricing and all that. But in the beginning, he had some of it in his books, because he also wrote a biography, not just Titan. Titan is an autobiography, and he has, or no, Titan is a biography, and then he has his own autobiographies. So he does explain a lot. That's what's amazing about these people, is they've written a lot. Um, but yeah, like, I'd like the play-by-play. Like, if you were in one town and you started taking over, how do you think about the expansion? Like, would you, what, how would you get the financing? What would you do? How would you persuade them? The whole thing. Just try to get a play-by-play from John D. Walt Disney was a pioneer. He kept innovating. Like, he started with black and white. Then it was just a nice sound with black and white. Then it was color. Then after color, it was, uh, like, movies and cartoons together. And then and he just kept elevating. And then, you know, the theme parks, and then after the theme parks, his next thing was like the city of the future, you know. And with Walt, I'd love to know his like research process, because he would always like surround himself with experts. And you know, like if you see it in his cartoons too, like with the animals, they bring animals, or when they did something about a culture, they'd go travel to the culture and whatever. So I'd love to know how he thinks about that. Like, you know, I have a research, I need to do something. What, you know, I'd give him like 3 scenarios, and like get how he would research all of them, because he does it like the best, right? And with Steve Jobs, I would kind of, because he wasn't technical, right? Or he was a software, he was a software engineer. He did a lot of software development, like that was his thing. And he did kind of innovate in that thing, but he, in like publicly, he was kind of given this reputation that he was like some sort of tyrant, and the people who weren't stars in his team kind of talked against him. And, you know, oh, he's not technical and he's not whatever. And he had so much controversy against him. He just so much hardship, right? And it's like, what what makes you go just keep pushing, right? Even through all that, like how would you handle someone, you know, saying like you don't have the technical abilities, or the losers in your team, you know, talking against you? How would you take, like, how would you respond to all of that? Like his kind of like ability to keep pushing on, you know, is just amazing, you know. And you know, his positive features already are, you know, kind of also explained in, you know, in many books and all of that. So like it's easy to learn that, but the negative feedback from that, or you know, like kind of ask him, you know, what do you think about this like Thailand thing? You know, have that conversation with, you know, like, is demanding the best from your team, you know, 7 days a week, you know, 27 hours in a day, is it, you know, would you take that back, or would you still keep? Because I think that is the key to building something great, is that kind of focus and high energy. You know, you need to put all the energy and just be like obsessed and just everything. Like it comes at that cost, I think.
Yeah, I mean, debatably, he wouldn't make what he made if he wasn't that way. Like you can't be a visionary and innovate as much as he did without being very high energy and very like bringing urgency into your team
He's
because
intense. He's
yeah,
intense, and he has that thing that I was telling you about. That he sees the human experience first, and sees the abstractions, and then, you know, kind of starts human first. That's what I love about. And you're right. He's so intense, so much energy, and it's like you have to be him to kind of do that, right?
you know what I was always thinking about other than what you mentioned is like the hiring process and figuring out who he's gonna bring on this journey because he's changing the world, right? He built the best smartphone at that time. It was insane, right? To bring that to the market. So previous to that, picking the people to bring into that journey and into the company, screening and figuring out who's gonna help him build that is is the biggest question for me because without the right team, it wouldn't be what it is today.
100%. Yeah, no, he did a great job, and he got burned a lot with that, because he got the Pepsi guy who kind of screwed him at the beginning.
Yeah,
So like I feel like he learned that lesson the hard way. So
yeah,
that's a good question. Yeah, and I might change my Steve Jobs question to that one. Yeah.
yeah. That's I was I was just thinking about um, yeah, like the whole way of hiring and figuring out that it's a big thing that I don't know anything about. Like I have no connection to HR, and when I start hiring people, it's gonna be a curve of learning very quickly and figuring out what to do.
Yeah, for me, like, since, you know, I've worked with so many companies, and like I've made, like I told you, the agency, the band hire, you
Mm.
know, and I'm realizing more and more with time that it's kind of output, energy, and focus. Like that's, if I'm gonna hire anybody in the future, that's all I'm gonna be looking at, is where has your focus been, and show me proof that you've spent a lot of energy there.
Mm.
And if you don't have that, then you don't have focus and energy. And I'm sorry, on to the next one, so it's like, this is kind of my new realization. Is focus and energy is really the easiest way to see someone's, you know, destined to be a winner or something. Because
Yeah.
it's like you can see their energy in their output, in the results, like the proof of their focus and energy. They can show you, be like, hey, I built 100 projects, like, rather than the guy who's like, oh, I built one project and,
The
I don't
hunger
know.
as well.
What?
The hunger as well, not
Yeah, the
for
hunger, exactly.
not necessarily just for money, but hunger for just making something. And that's what I feel I have, I don't really look at money that much. Like my goal is when I was younger, I was like, oh, I want to be a millionaire. But growing up, like maturing is like figuring out it's not about the money, it's about everything else that comes with it and being in a place where you want to be rather than but other what you said, like I think hiring as well is the same as building products. Like this first product that we just sold, we kind of went out of it with so many lessons, right? So when we hire, I know that I'm gonna make wrong hires at some point, and I know that it's gonna be a failure that needs to happen in order to learn, in order to make something work. And it's the same with the product. With this product that we're launching right now, there's everything that's done right now is instilled failures from the previous one, and not just from the product side, the software side of it, but distribution, the approach, pricing, all of this. So it's and even if this one fails, like there's gonna be 10 different lessons from this one combined with the old 10 lessons, 20 lessons going into the next
Yeah,
project. So that's all I'm on right now, and I think it's the right way to go.
for sure. Yeah. And reading helps. Reading helps a lot. Learning from other people's failures, other people's wins, that's where the biography thing comes in, because it's like actually people that have went through the storm sharing their perspective, rather than just like, hey, there's 12 steps of how you should, you know, run your business. It's rarely 12 steps, it's usually like, 1,763 steps. So
Okay, I'm
it's,
gonna I'm gonna commit to reading one biography that you recommend me. You can recommend me more, but I'm gonna start reading one today.
you're gonna start leading one today.
I'm
Uh,
publicly committing, and I can even post on X and share what I learned.
okay,
Uh,
I'll try to make it easy for you. So like, what industry do you want to read in? Because like I would say Titan, the John D. Rockefeller, because he's like the richest man in history. And what, yeah, who
it,
would you?
it can be that because I'm interested, but generally, like I hate corporations. Not hate, but like I don't want to go that way or anything. I always want to stay small, so I'm not really drawn into this. Um, I'm drawn into his way of thinking and history and everything, but I don't know if I would if that
Yeah,
side of
then read the Dyson's biography. Janet.
Oh, I
Yeah,
actually I actually love that guy. Not just the company side, the farming side. I looked
yeah.
at
Read his biography, and he has two biographies, and read both. Like he has his old one and the new one, both are good. But one was written like kind of in in the middle of it.
Mhm.
Once he started getting some success, he wrote it, and then he wrote the other one like kind of now at the end of his career and wanting to pass it off, his whatever. But Dyson's biography is a good.
I'll start with that one, the mother one, because like I became a big fan. Like I love farming or like the homesteading and stuff like
Mhm.
that. That's one of my dreams. And what he's doing with machines and automating it and everything is crazy.
It
I
is.
think he's number one producer of potato in the UK, I think.
I didn't know that. Yeah,
Everything is circular, everything
yeah,
is sustainable. Like all of the powering of the plants is produced by the gas emissions or something like this
yeah.
that has from manure and from grass decomposing or whatever it's doing in the scientific ways. But he has a very nice approach. Like uses drones to plant crops, and he doesn't use any pesticides or any chemicals. he has laser machines that burn insects that are harming strawberries, for example.
That's amazing.
I'm gonna send you this video that I watched. It's actually crazy.
Yeah, he's great. He's such a fascinating person to learn from.
This video, I didn't know that technology existed yet.
Mhm.
Um, and
He's
just the
great. No, he's I think he was one of the first factories in Singapore, and his Dyson factory over there is completely autonomous. There's no human. I think the humans just kind of monitor things, but that's about it.
wow,
Everything is built in robotic.
I love that.
Yeah.
I try to get into I'm planning to buy land, and I try to get into Arduino to
Mhm.
like figure out how I'm gonna set up like automatic watering of the crops and everything. And I'm like, my head was already filled with information. Imagine this
Yeah.
guy is producing number one amount of potatoes for UK.
Yeah.
Imagine what he
He
has.
has like a Tesla cannon for for bugs.
It's like lasers burning every bug,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the wild thing is that it's not burning bees or
Amazing.
any other pollinators. It's only burning the insects that like it sees on
The
the
harmful ones, yeah.
recognition, yeah, the harmful ones.
That's awesome.
All right, we're a lot over the time. Sorry about that, man.
No, that's fine.
I
My
can't.
podcasts are 2 hours, so don't worry.
So you're used to yapping a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I'm for number one.
All right, man. I would love to have informally to chat with you. You're a very interesting guy, and I feel like you have a plethora of knowledge to share from the business side as well that we didn't discuss that much. So yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. I'll get you on my podcast, once it starts going. My podcast is more for people who are already committed
Mhm,
to a long-term path, because it's a strategy workshop.
mhm.
So definitely, once you're committed, once you launch and you're like, hell yeah, I want to start doing this, and growing it, then I'll get you on my podcast for sure. Get you some feedback.
That would be lovely, man. I would love that. All right, so thank you so much for sharing your story. Uh, I'm also happy we didn't go too personal. We don't want to, share too much information, and it's just all about sharing who you are and your personality and how you work. You're a very interesting person.
Thank you so much.
And I hope
Appreciate it.
anyone who watches this is, learn something from you, and I for sure did, and I had a lovely conversation. So, thank you for being a guest, and see you on your podcast, man.
Nadim, my man, thank you so much. Thank you for hosting. It's a fantastic, initiative, and can't wait to see it, keep growing.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. All
Appreciate
right.
it.